Shedva Hawalya, Oro Shedva Hawalya, Anishe Haktan Taurig, Oro Shedva Hawalya, Oro Shedva Hawalya, Oro Shedva Hawalya, Anishe Haktan Taurig. Once more, Oro Shedva Hawalya, Oro Shedva Hawalya, Oro Shedva Hawalya, Anishe Haktan Taurig.
Next up, we have Michael Ward from Ventura College. He's going to read the funeral oration that Padre Pierce gave at the funeral of Jeremiah O'Donovan Rosa. It was significant because it was a few months before the Easter Rising, and the Irish Republican Brotherhood used the funeral as a chance to hold a political rally because they were illegal at the time. So it was a very rousing speech.
Thank you. Yeah, first I'd like to real quick acknowledge one of my professors.
You got to eat that mic.
Okay, Professor Roger McGrath is here. It's a real honor to haven't seen him for a long time. He's done an awful lot for the Irish and for Ireland in his career. And along with my wife Ann Doherty, the two of them showed me my way to my own Irish roots too, so it's a real honor to be here. Anyway, O'Donovan Rossa took his name Rossa from his hometown in County Cork, and after the failed rising of 1867, he was exiled. He was in jail in England and was exiled to the United States, where he established very strong supports from the Irish Americans, exiled Irish and Irish Americans for Ireland, and so when he died in Staten Island, New York, in 1915, his body was brought back to Dublin for burial, and Padre Pierce wrote this funeral oration for him at the graveside. It has seemed right, before we turn away from this place in which we have laid the mortal remains of O'Donovan Rossa, that one among us should, in the name of all, speak down
the mic.
Okay, talking in it this way. Okay. It seemed right before we turn away from this place in which we have all laid the mortal remains of O'Donovan Rossa, that one amongst us should, in the name of all, speak the praise of that valiant man, and endeavor to formulate the thought and the hope that in us, as we stand around his grave. And if there is anything that makes it fitting that I, rather than some other, I, rather than one of the gray-haired men who were young with him and shared in his labor and in his suffering, should speak here, it is perhaps that I may be taken as speaking on behalf of a new generation that has been rebaptized in the Fenian faith and that has accepted this responsibility of carrying out the Fenian program. I propose to you then that here by the grave of this unrepentant Fenian, we renew our baptismal vows, that here by the grave of this unconquered and unconquerable man, we ask of God, each one for himself, each of such unshakable purpose, such high and gallant courage, such unbreakable strength of soul as belonged to O'Donovan Rossa. We stand at Rossa's grave not in sadness, but rather in exaltation of spirit that has been given us to come thus into so close a communion with that brave and splendid Gael. Splendid and holy causes are served by men who are themselves splendid and holy. O'Donovan Rossa was splendid in the proud manhood of him, splendid in the heroic grace of him, splendid in the Gaelic strength and clarity of truth in him. And all that splendor and pride and strength was compatible with a humility and a simplicity of devotion to Ireland, to all that was olden and beautiful and Gaelic in Ireland, the holiness and simplicity of patriotism of a Michael O'Clery or an Egan O'Brownie. The clear, true eyes of this man, almost alone in his day, visioned Ireland as we would today, would surely have her. Not free merely, but Gaelic as well. Not Gaelic merely, but free as well. In a closer spiritual communion with him now than ever before, or perhaps ever again, in spiritual communion with those of his day, living and dead, who suffered with him in English prisons, in communion of spirit too with our own dear comrades who suffer in English prisons today, and speaking on their behalf as well as our own. We pledge to Ireland our love. We pledge to English rule in Ireland our hate. This is a place of peace, sacred to the dead, where men should speak with all clarity and all restraint. But I hold a Christian thing, as O'Donovan Rossa held it, to hate evil, to hate untruth, to hate oppression, and hating them, to strive to overthrow them. Our foes are strong and wise and wary. But strong and wise and wary as they are, they cannot undo the miracles of God, who ripens in the heart of young men the seeds sown by the young men of a former generation, and the seeds sown by the young men of 65 and 67 are coming to their miraculous ripening today. Rulers and defenders of realms had need to be wary if they would guard against such processes. Life springs from death, and from the graves of patriot men and women spring live nations. The defenders of this realm have worked well in secret and in the open. They think that they have pacified Ireland. They think that they have purchased half of us and intimidated the other half. They think that they have foreseen everything. They think that they have provided against everything. But the fools, the fools, the fools, they have left us our Fenian dead. And while Ireland holds these graves, Ireland unfree shall never be at peace.
Thank you very much, Michael. Next up, we have Tim Gallagher, who's going to read a poem written by a British soldier.
This poem was written about James Connolly. That's his flag right there. Among the leaders of the uprising, James Connolly was probably the most radical. Thought his fellow patriots weren't doing quite enough. And so, of course, when he was shot and captured by the British, they put him in a hospital, convicted of treason, and pulled him from his hospital bed to bring him out into the square to execute him. After he was shot by a firing squad, one of the members of the firing squad, a British soldier, wrote this poem. And you'll see how conflicted he was at what he had done. The man was all shot through that came today into the barrack square. A soldier I am not proud to say we killed him there. They brought him from the prison hospital to see him in that chair. I thought his smile would far more quickly call a man to prayer. Maybe we cannot understand this thing that makes these rebels die, and yet all things love freedom and the spring clear in the sky. I think I would not do this deed again for all that I hold by. Gaze down my rifle at his breast, but then a soldier I. They say that he was kindly, different too, apart from all the rest, a lover of the poor, and all shot through his wounds ill-dressed. He came before us, faced us like a man, he knew a deeper pain. than blows or bullets ere the world began. Died he in vain? Ready, present. And he just smiling. God, I felt my rifle shake. His wounds were opened out, and round that chair was one red lake. I swear his lips said fire when all was still. Before my rifle spat that cursed lead, and I was picked to kill a man like that.